All right, what's up, you guys? I just wanted to do a quick little Roblox review because I know, a couple of you guys have been looking at this and we have recently talked about what's going on with it. Now, the hard thing that I want to point out here is that the 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 rallies, the two little rallies we had from Wednesday and Thursday, all were due to macroeconomic reasons, okay? So the pop that we had, earnings was actually really bad for them. If you look at it, earnings, they've missed by quite a bit, okay? And so the reaction right off on that day was something that we expected from terrible earnings, okay? So let me pull this up here. Earnings was this right here, okay? And we had this big drop, all right? And it actually came all the way down below 40. So if you had those 45 calls or 45 puts, right, overnight, they looked like they were going to be really, really, really good. But you got to keep them 45s right here. So when you open, though, your open was right in this range, and I actually was going to give you two. I had drawn this out beforehand. Is it still on here? Our wave 3 move, let's make sure we have that Fibonacci drawn for it so we can see where we ended up, right? So let's go down to the bottom. This 2 here, we'll do a Fibonacci all the way to the top where 3 is, where that peak hit, right? And so you can see there, we actually respected that 0.382. We tried to go down to the 0.5, it didn't go, and we opened up around the 0.236. Do you see that? Okay, let me stretch this out here. So that whole move up, right? That whole move up, our Fibonacci levels were drawn here, here, and here, okay? And then we can also draw another fib too to add on here and just go from the top of here to the bottom in terms of that drop, okay? And as well, that gives us what? That gives us this line. That gives us, right, this is the bottom. This, you can also see the 0.382 got respected here and here and here. And then this 0.618 as well was respected in terms of the movements back, okay? So what I'm trying to point out here is that this drop down here had his fibs coming back, okay? And then the move up had the profits taken in this direction too. So what else happened? Okay, then what ended up happening overnight right here was we had CPI data showed that inflation had peaked, or at least the narrative says that inflation has peaked. So it rallied and it gave back that loss and people came back in and purchased, all right? But the first initial reaction was a sell-off and it came back down. You might not have necessarily profited depending on if your theta actually overweighed your delta of that move, because this, from close here, 48, and you open around 45 instead of somewhere around, 38, etc., right? This would have been a $10 drop, but instead you ended up only getting a $3 drop. So $3 times your theta here, right? You got three deltas, very likely was less than the theta that you lost in the situation. Or if IV went down as well, because people got out before earnings, that could have also led to the loss in that type of a put, okay? So, it would have been riskier to take the 50 puts or 55 puts, because again, if it went up and like what happened here, those would have lost out as well later on in that day. Keep in mind here, what happened here? We had PPI, right? PPI, I know I didn't really talk too much about it in the Discord today, but the PPI came in at a lower number. There's a small bit that was a bit higher, but overall, the producers index of prices has gone down, so which means that they're likely going to be able to relax on their capital investments, and such things are starting to get cheaper for them is the idea. And so as a result, companies are getting bought up by a lot of big firms, because at this point it's saying, hey, the Fed might not need to raise the rates as fast, okay? And so let's take a look from here. you could say we maybe had a 1, 2, 3, 4, or one here. Let's see, biggest spike here actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's not the best. It's a very small situation. So right now what we're looking at is this is very likely just an ABC retracement. Now we have given back all these gains, but we're right back where we popped. So this could just, you know, choppiness coming back down, retest. We could have it headed further up, right? Because again, earnings was bad, but the economy is doing better. So that means to them, this very likely is going to improve in the next situation, all right? And all this was, you know, ultimately this became this priced in, and then people started to buy up due to macroeconomics, all right? So let's zoom out just a little bit as well. Let's go back into, I'm going to do the 4 hour. We're going to take away the extended hours. We'll take away those extra charts for a moment. So what are we seeing now? All right. We are seeing a good amount of buying here. That's the thing. Earnings was a reason for it to come back down. And look at this perfect retest as well, you might imagine. You came back down, retested, and bounced right up. Now, here's the thing. I think we're going to stay in this range for a little bit because this wick up here shows we didn't really want to be up here, at least on this 4 hour, etc. So if I scoot into some closer time frames, let's look at a 1 hour chart here too. What you have here in terms of the candle pattern is what we call a tweezer top, right? Or actually, technically, you can imagine here, you got this big push up, but then we just head straight back down. And the two here show, and the two wicks that we have show that the prices above right here are very unfavored. We rejected them in 2 hours. And then also, if you go, let's go a little bit closer and take a look at that, right? This reaction to the top is showing that it wanted to leave. It did not like these prices up here, okay? Let's take a look at our, that's good buying down here. So that means you've got the support of these people here. They're going to continue to purchase right now, if you think about that. So if we do break down below, then it would be a retest there. But right now, with the amount of volume that just came in, right? 15-minute, let's go a bit, like, look at how big that those candles are. And they haven't been that big. And look at this, even, let's go further down toward the bottom, right? Near the bottom, you should imagine, because things are cheaper, you can afford more too. These spikes down here should be bigger. But just as well, okay? Like I had already said earlier with our previous, we've got a lot of people sitting right here, and we've got a lot of people sitting right here. So you can imagine there's going to be pushes anytime it comes back down, okay? Now you did have these as well. So there are some buyers and sellers that are starting to create floors here too, okay? Now earnings did what it needed to do. Now we're going to move forward because this is over with, and we're now projecting for what could happen in the upcoming year. And as a result, you got to keep in mind here, we are now, right, you've got all these people pushing down from here, but you also now have these people. You can imagine Kathy Woods will do what she can with her fund to try to keep things up here. So right now our floor right here is around that 44, 45 range. And I would not be surprised to see, because take a look here. If I double click right now, and my theory right now is that we're just going to create a little range right now. We got a lot of buying over, you know, this, but we have some slowdown too. So if this is going to be ultimately the area that we're in, let me get rid of these fibs so they don't get so ugly. Right, we've got the support down here, we've got the buying, but we've got a lot of volume here, but we showed we did not want to go back above there. And we actually closed down here too. So that gives me the sense that we're very likely going to retest down here and the upper bound. And depending on which direction we do happen to break, if we break down below this now, and we can involve these buyers and sellers, you'll see a retest down. However, keep in mind, these people do a lot to keep it above this value. So you do have this, temporary floor you could imagine where things may reject from. So my current prediction for you guys on this one would be that we're going to come back down. It could be just to this candle. It could be down to the bottom boundary where this red is and where these green candles are. You've got some decent support right here. So probably a test of that, because also when you take a look at the two, we do have this uptrend that we've been respecting. If I do ignore a little bit of that wick and a bit of this wick as well, that could be the type of bounce that we get, right? It could be as far as down as here too. So keep an eye on that. And, with right now with economy and things like that, we've got some bullish, a bullish push right now, simply because you don't have those, you don't have those macroeconomic issues that are so much at play. Now, if we do end up with a bigger picture relaxation, right? Because I was telling you guys, right? Weekly is pretty high up there. Daily and smaller timeframes, when you take a look at our stochastic and our MACD, things are starting to curl and come down just a bit. So there is a bit of divergence on that daily, and same with that 4 hour, right? The only thing I wanted to mention to you guys and remember was that the Roblox liquidity, especially with earnings and stuff, IV was real high. The contracts weren't necessarily as advantageous to try to benefit from. But again, there was profits to be taken. We did have that right prediction of earnings, but keep in mind that the other macroeconomic reasons were the reason why it popped from there, okay? Now, one thing to be aware of, if we do happen to break through this line, right, look for that retest. And what you're ultimately looking for here is it very likely will create some form of head and shoulders pattern, right? You might have some sort of ugly shoulder here and a head here, and then like a smaller shoulder. What you'll be looking for is, because it's three tests of upper boundaries, what you're looking for is that this shoulder is going to have much lower volume than this, showing that people are exhausted. People don't want to continue to buy up here. And as a result, if this forms, you could expect a lower drop to one of your previous levels of support and resistance, okay? So as of right now, bullish off of that. But if we break this white trend line is where you're going to be looking for that potential head and shoulders setup, okay? And it would be a good idea to see, how that rejects from that, previous resistance, etc. And as a result, what does that do? If it fills that neckline, then you can expect this to be a bigger ABC type of retracement, and there's going to be profits to be taken below that level, okay? All right. I feel like that's all I really want to talk about here with Roblox. Actually went a little bit longer than I expected, but hey, you guys get the idea. If you have questions, let me know. If you have other tickers you want me to go through, let me know as well. I do have a little bit of time today. I might be able to get some other videos posted for you guys. All right. Hope that was useful, ICA. And if you guys do have questions, send them right over to me. Okay. Talk to you then.